Okay, so week one college football really kicking off the majority of games tomorrow, Saturday, a time all college football fans have been waiting for, and an opportunity I've been waiting for to pick the brains of a man like the one I have sitting across me, Ryan, aka Dirty Bird, hosts the show Kang Gang on Sirius XM. Ryan, thank you so much for being here with me this evening as we preview Miami. Before we get started into this, if you could just let the people know where to find you and all of your great content.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Ty, first off, thank you so much. Love your work and love the opportunity to jump on the show here with you and talk Canes and really all college football, man. But yeah, I mean, you can find me on Twitter at Dirty Bird with three Y's. Kind of name comes. So I used to actually work for the Atlanta Falcons in the equipment room, and being that now I'm a huge Miami fan. The name kind of just transitioned from my fantasy
It
football
just
name
works.
over, and it just kind of fell in, and it's kind of what I've gone by with on Twitter there. But I actually work with a couple other rabid Canes fans, or actually I'd probably say bigger Canes fans than I am on the Kane Gang radio show. One's John Michaels, who does sports radio in the Atlanta area, and then Derek Coe, who is everybody in the Canes Nation knows him because he's been around the program forever. So we're just a couple guys who get up there and we're completely unscripted. A lot of times, really unfiltered. And we say also we're unapologetic too. So we get up and we hang. We love to talk Canes, and we get off, like I said, we get off script a lot as well. So
It's a ton of fun to listen into. I was so excited to get you in here for that reason. And not only for that reason, not only the great work y'all do, but especially whenever we look at the offseason this year in college football, one, first and foremost, I might be young, but I can contend I can't think of three off seasons off the top of my head with as much intrigue as the off season we're coming
unreal.
off of. And two, focusing in on Miami, the intrigue around the Hurricanes right now, from a coaching standpoint, from a player standpoint, from a recruiting standpoint, it seems like it's red hot in Miami. Talk to me about the temperature around the program right now before we ever even start talking about week one.
Oh, you hit the nail on the head right there. I mean, it's red hot. What's unfortunate for us is that it's been red hot a lot of off seasons, right? But I tell you what, having gone through this before, right? It's different this time, right? The Miami fan base very much so feels like if Mario can't fix our issues, nobody can, right? I mean, this is a guy who is Miami. He is the culture. He's a stand-up guy with a tremendous reputation. Who's got a lot of integrity behind him. He works honest, right, which is tough to find in this business. He's just a great human being. We've been around a couple of events during the off season, and he actually he just came up to us. He was like, "Hey boys," and comes up and just starts having a conversation with us. Just a great human being, right? And I mean, obviously, the financial commitment is what it took to get him here, which is the differentiator, right? When you look before, we never had the investment. Like, football is as crazy as it was, being the storied history that we had, winning five national championships. Could have been as many as seven if things would have gone a little bit, but we won't go into that on this show. You know, we'd never had the investment financially, that we have right now. I think that the Miami's put up a bunch of hospitals, and they're huge in the medical industry around here, and they really look at this as a marketing opportunity for the football program to be productive, right? So they knew bringing in, it's going to take a high profile coach to bring in and win, and you went out and got a guy who's a native son of Miami, an alumnus of the program, former coach for us as well, and a guy who's been out and just really did a great thing did great things with that Oregon program, leading the Pac-12 championships and whatnot. He's the perfect guy for the job. And every Miami fan, I'd say, if I was to give our mood right now, it's kind of brash and cocky, and I think it's just because we've been hurt so much so many times. I always say anybody who's an Office fan, the gif of Michael Scott where he's in there and there's no question about it. I am ready to get hurt again. I mean, that's me. That's all of us right now. So
But that's a beautiful thing, and to me, not to derail, that's what makes college football is this tribalism within it amongst the fan bases. Even from a national perspective, you just look down and it's so unique. And I'm really happy you brought up Oregon because yesterday I had a great opportunity to record with the host of Locked On Ducks, Spencer McLaughlin. And one of the things he pointed out to me, one of the things we were talking about, is Dan Lanning is walking into a situation where if you look top to bottom, the cupboards are full in Eugene. He doesn't have much that's barren, right? Like he might have a room that needs a bit more depth, but what institution in the nation doesn't have a room
Sure.
that needs more depth? And a lot of that is because of the recruiting ability of a Mario Cristobal. Now, I don't doubt Dan Lanning can't recruit. We saw him land the 5-star Connor Lee Jr. So I have full faith he can recruit, and then Dante Moore. But Mario Cristobal left Oregon in a really good place, and I'm a bit of a nerd. So whenever Mario Cristobal went home, the first thing I thought of was Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King, basically the prodigal son returning back home to sit on the throne. Because I'm a younger guy, but I grew up on a horse ranch where I didn't have cable TV, and the bit of TV I did have was dedicated to football because my dad, anytime he got, it was college football. I remember those Miami teams from the 2000s, right? I remember how great they were and how when you saw that color pattern, no matter whether you were a fan or not, it invoked a certain feeling. The Miami color pattern, the U invoked a certain feeling in your average college football fan that, quite frankly, we just haven't had in quite some time. So that's why when you say there's this brash cockiness, I'm like, great. That's from an outsider. That's what I want to hear because that's one of the things that made Miami so beautiful. Now, focusing in, there's a player Miami has who I am so keyed in on this year because I truly think in a league that had a lot of really good play last year, Tyler Van Dyke has an opportunity to really make a name for himself on the national stage. What's the word around Van Dyke?
I mean, he's the real deal, right? I think what you saw last year. They really they took the leash off of him and they just kind of let him play and let him do his thing. But it's not just the physical talent that he was out there winning off of. This is a guy who lives in the film room, right? A guy who I mean, he lives this role, right? He he's got all the tools to make all the throws. But here's the thing with what Mario is, right? He's not going to be a guy who's going to have TBD putting out the numbers that he was last year. I mean, at the end of last year, I think the coaching staff was kind of trying to save their jobs a little bit, so they were just kind of letting it fly. And they kind of opened it up and said, hey, it hadn't been working this way, so we're just going to open it up and let it go. Plus, we had a lot of running back issues last year with health, and the depth got really shallow really quick right there. I mean, our number one running back who's awesome in Jalen Knight, and he's not a big guy, and we were sending him up the gut on 3rd and 1, right? So that's not something you normally see happen. So really we had to pass a lot. So I don't expect Tyler to put up Heisman like numbers, right? So I'm not looking at it like, I mean, look, he can catch lightning in a bottle, and things can fall the right way, and maybe he could win that, right? And I know he's on the odds boards and all that, usually anywhere from top 10 to top 15 in the odds boards, right? But I think he's going to play very, very well for us. I think he's going to put us in a great position to win. He's going to take care of the ball. He's going to make smart decisions. He's going to make smart throws. He's the real deal, right? And I think he's the prototype for the NFL. I mean, he's huge. Just a really big guy. He's got a great head on his shoulders. So couldn't say enough about Tyler and his position. Leading this team as really the alpha on this team going forward. I mean, when you look at the team, there's no question. I mean, that's the guy everybody in the country knows. When national media talks about Miami, it's TVD. And then probably the ACC. ACC is not a lot of things, but one thing it is probably has the best group of quarterbacks of any conference in the country this year going in. So
And I don't think a lot of people would really recognize that. And I'll be 100% honest, myself included, until I really sat down and started peering through the numbers. And I'm very much well of a person. I wasn't the greatest in math. So I'll see some numbers and I'm like, okay, well, now I need to go watch the film so that way it all can make sense to me.
yeah,
The quarterback play in the ACC last
ridiculous.
year was really, really good. And if DJU would have played at the level we all thought he would, I mean, you'd be talking about a rarefied conference of quarterback play last year. Now, one of the only questions I have in regards to Tyler Van Dyke actually has nothing to do with Tyler Van Dyke. I don't really think he's got a whole lot of weaknesses, but What's the wide receiver position looking like right now for Miami?
Rumors are is that that's the group that's been struggling, right?
Okay.
So, there's been a lot of drops in camp. Even there's a couple of guys who just maybe played a little better last year that just haven't really kind of haven't really clicked yet this year, right? So, it's not great. I mean, it's not the position group that I'd come in and highlight right now, but there are a lot of there are a lot of candidates to step up in there. Xavier Restrepo is a guy who's made some good plays for us, over the past couple of years. He's really, I think, pretty much Tyler's best friend on the team. I know, those guys spend a lot of time together, so that'll tell you. But the thing is too is Josh Gaddis loves to utilize the tight end, and that's we are tight end you, and I'd fight anybody on that. Bring them on. But we have two really incredible tight ends this year, and Will Mallory, who's entering, I don't know, feels like his eighth or ninth year here, right?
Yeah,
Probably
honestly.
probably been about fifth year, but he had a really rough first 4 games last year, right? And I think everybody really went sour on him. But when you look at what he did in the second half of last year, he had a really good bond with Tyler. He made some great plays. Ran well after the catch, right? So he made some awesome plays there. And then there's a kid behind him named Elijah Arroyo, who's a superstar in the making. Who's you know I mean, I think he's going to be a major contributor, and by the end of the year, he's going to be a name that most college football fans know because he is awesome. And then we also have another recruit who's an absolute freak of nature in Jaleel Skinner.
Yep.
Who for the I think the first time ever we kind of beat Nick Saban on draft day, or excuse me, not on draft day, but on signing day, and had him flip to us. So that's you beat Saban. That's, I think, a little bit of the reason he had a little bit of arrogance in us this year. So
Oh,
it's a
and look,
healthy amount of arrogance, though.
yeah, a healthy amount, a schmeckle, if we
Yeah,
will, right?
yeah,
Just
there you
just
go.
just a dusting of arrogance. But I'm really glad you brought up Jaleel Skinner because I don't know if you can tell, my camera is a little down. I actually have a Roll Tide sign up behind me.
Nice.
I was very keyed in on that Skinner battle because
Mhm.
he was a dude coming out of high school. I was so excited to get him in because one thing I constantly talk about whenever we're talking about new offenses or an offense that you want to get some things going, good running back play and good tight end play can absolutely turn a game on its head. And especially if we're talking about tight ends that are just utter mismatches. And though we haven't seen it, I would bet Skinner's going to be a mismatch at the next level. He's going to be fun to watch. The running back room you highlighted, but what's the word there? What's that kind of looking like?
Well, we've had a couple of injuries. Trevante Citizen was a freshman who came in who I was just all over. I mean, I thought that this kid, because the thing is, all our running backs, they're really good at one thing. Citizen was kind of the, mashed all into one and kind of your all-purpose back that could really do everything. So, in my mind, he was going to see a lot of action this year, especially in the first half of the year where we play, you know, um, you know, three opponents that, he'd probably get a lot of burn in those games against Bethune-Cookman, Middle Tennessee State, and drawing a blank on the other one. Yeah. Anyway, but he would have seen a lot of burn in those 3 games, right? But he's down probably for the year. Don Chaney, who's another really good running back for us as well, is injured. Probably come back sometime in ACC play for us. But we actually, and this is kind of indicative of college football these days, earlier this week, we brought in a walk on out of the transfer portal by the name of Lucius Stanley out of the UAB, who actually played really well at UAB. I think he had about probably about 10 career touchdowns over there and 1,000 career rushing yards. Well, rumor has it this guy is going to be active this week, and we expect him to see a pretty decent amount of carries as well. So only in 2022 would you see college football where a running back joins your team on a Monday, and by that Saturday is probably playing meaningful snaps in a game. So, but the whole thing, we have Henry Parrish in from Ole Miss, who's a Miami kid who
Yeah,
we're
that was a
really
huge
excited to bring
addition.
back. Yeah, and then Rooster, who's I mean Rooster's just electrifying, and Rooster I mean Jalen Knighton, who's is our starting running back. The kid's electrifying. So we're really excited to see what he has this year, and I'm just really happy that we're not going to be running him up the gut on 3rd and 1 again because he's probably about 165 pounds soaking wet. So
Yeah. Hey, that the running back depth is huge. I mean, we can talk for days about teams that have been prepped for huge runs, and some names go down in those running back rooms, and it completely affects the way they're able to move forward. The last area on offense I want to talk about, naturally, I saved it for last because Mario Cristobal, offensive line guy, and he didn't come alone from Oregon, which was what I found so interesting. He brought his buddy Alex Mirabal with him, and those two have been on a tear in recruiting. What's the thought around offensive line play this year?
Man, Mirrorball's something, right? Like that's what I'll say. So those guys actually go back to Christopher Columbus High School
Yep.
here in Miami. I mean, like years and years back. I mean, they're probably as close to friends. Also with Frank Ponce, who's another guy that they go back who's in that Columbus crew with them. But I mean, yeah, look, I mean, Mario he focuses his time in practice in two areas. Number one is the offensive line. Number two is with special teams. So he's spending all his time there. We've got a lot of talent there, but look, I mean, I think every team would probably look at their O line unless you're Alabama, or maybe Notre Dame or maybe Michigan or somebody, and say, hey, like our offensive line can definitely be better. We've had a lot of that over the past couple of years. A lot of holes, but there's some really good talent over there. Zion Nelson is a kid who came in, gained 60 pounds in his first 5 months on campus. Ended up starting against Florida a few years back, and I mean, of course, he got torched because he was a two-star recruit coming out of North Carolina that came out of nowhere. But he's had a number of years in the program, and he has really built himself up physically to be just we hope a dominant left tackle. Brought in a transfer from Oregon and Logan Sagapolu, who's just another just physical just monster in the trenches. But what's really interesting about this line, and I think we're going to see a lot of this on Saturday, is Mario has these guys playing everywhere on the line, right? So everybody knows each other's job, and it's kind of unique in programs, that it's somewhat of a positionless offensive line, I think, in practice. I mean, of course, when we get into the game, there'll be some definition around it. We probably know who's playing tackle, but you're going to see these guys, kind of move around a little bit. Ja'Kai Clark's our center, and just another guy who kind of came in as a lesser known recruit and out of the Georgia area, and has just came in and become a tremendous center. I think he's gonna have a great year here this year. Jalen Rivers was probably our best offensive lineman last year, and I think he's tremendous, and we're going to see a lot out of him. So the hope and listen, with any of these, anything on the with any team right now, any fan of any school that's watching out there, right? We're all drinking the Kool Aid right now, right? Because we all well say, hey, if this goes this way, if this goes this way for us, but you can't prevent injuries, right? And that's the one thing you can't predict around. So we stay healthy. I think we're going to have a really good year on the offensive side of the ball. And it's not to say that we're not, that we don't have holes or whatnot, but I definitely think that we're walking into this season in the best position we've been in a long time to have a productive offense.
Yeah, and before we go over to the defensive side, there's one thing you said that I kind of want to lightly touch on. And when you talk about how you might have some holes, but one thing Mario Cristobal is doing at an eye-opening rate right now is recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
He is winning battles left, right, and center. And one of the things that's the most impressive to me is the work he's been able to do in the state of Florida, something that's been big for the Florida schools that we really haven't seen done at the effectiveness we're seeing done right now with Mario Cristobal. So, whenever you're looking at this momentum he has in recruiting going forward, how exciting is it to be able to see this palpable excitement hit the area in the manner that it has?
Oh man, it's been incredible, right? Like it's been so much fun to watch and watch the way he's building the team, and he's building it from the way you should, right? You got to build the trenches out first, and Francis Malagoa, who's a consensus 5-star tackle, probably the best tackle in the country, although there's some really good ones this cycle. We're watching him at IMG just mauling people right now. So big Polynesian, can't wait to get him on campus. He's locked in with us, but Jaden Wayne, another four high far, 5-star kid,
He's a
depending on how
5-star.
mature.
I've
Yeah, I mean,
watched him play. He's a 5-star.
yeah, he's a monster as well. And I mean, he's gonna be huge for us as well. So, Jaden Rashada, who's I think one of the better quarterbacks in this class. I know a lot of the recruiting services agree. I think Rivals has him at like 140 or 150 or something. So for some reason, I hope they're not right on him. But yeah, I mean, the momentum he's bringing has been awesome, and it's been a lot of fun to watch. Um, yeah, just I want to keep seeing more of it. There's a lot of other prospects out there that we're still in the running for. Ruben Bain, who's a kid out of Miami Central right now. I'm sure being an Alabama fan that you are well aware of him.
Samson
But
Lola, another one.
oh yeah, Samson. Oh yeah, yeah. We're loving the fact that we're hoping that Samson's in this class. Not done deal yet, but we feel good about that one. But until these kids sign, though, it really doesn't matter because a kid can commit to you, and it doesn't matter until they sign and they actually show up on campus. But yeah, Ruben Bain is the one that I'm just looking at right now. That is like it is a must get. I mean, his uncle played here, Tolbert Bain. His brother is on staff here as well as a graduate assistant. And I mean, he's an absolute monster. I mean, he had 29 and a half sacks last year, and he didn't really even play the second half of most games for Miami Central. Had 3 sacks against IMG in a game that Miami Central won against IMG, which is absolutely insane to think
Yeah.
about. He's the guy that I think is a program changer, and he's only a 4-star across the board, which is absolutely nuts. I think for anybody who's watched him to see that. But another one that's huge on it. I know you don't want to get too deep in recruiting though, but
Oh no, please, please.
Cormani Mclean. I know that's another one that we're wrestling with you guys. I think if it was to happen today, Cormani's throwing up that A, right, and he's with Alabama. But he's a generational talent in the
And a long
secondary.
way to go.
Yeah, long way to go. I mean, listen, the thing with this recruiting is, we're gonna have to win, right? We're gonna have to win to keep these kids and to let them go because if not, it's just more of the same. It's just more of the same, for the national perspective of Miami, right? Like, oh yeah, you guys win the off season every year, and now you show up and nothing. So
Yeah, I had highlighted one of the linebacker commits y'all had gotten not long ago. I believe it was Aguirre.
oh
I
yeah,
I believe it
well
was him. Raul, yes.
yeah,
I was watching his film and when I made my commitment video for him, I mean, I've been blown away by how well Miami's been able to recruit the linebacker position this cycle. I mean, they have some really, really exciting playmakers at that linebacker position. So I'm super excited as to how Miami is going to be able to recruit going forward. Before we go to the defense, the last thing I'll say is I love your point about having to win because Miami and Mario Cristobal have been able to cultivate hype. And a lot of people say you can't recruit or you can't do this off of hype. I disagree a little bit because we can see right now Mario can recruit off of hype. But the second he can turn that hype into something tangible, well, now we're having a different conversation, right? Like
oh yeah.
now we're having an impactful conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, you gotta win, and just something kind of off the cuff with recruiting too for all your awesome listeners out there, guys. Just be good to the recruits on there too, man.
Absolutely. Thank
Like one thing that just I guess you'd say grinds my gears is when like I mean, look, respect these kids' decisions. Know that they're kids, that they're high school kids. Just I mean, there's so many people that get in there and they're like sliding into kids' DMs and saying stuff like that. I mean, look, I enjoy following recruiting, right? And you'll see me, comment on a recruit, I'll throw, a Miami GIF or something up there, but just for everybody, just don't be negative to the kids. Let them do their thing. Let them have their moments. Let them be kids, right? So
Yeah. We're all huge fans, but we need to realize there's life-changing implications based on
sure,
these decisions. And just because we might believe me being an Alabama fan doesn't mean Alabama's best for everybody, right? And people need to make decisions based on themselves. I love that you brought that up because I've said consistently, the only thing you should ever send a recruit is congratulations,
sure,
right? Like
absolutely,
praise, whether
yeah,
they pick your school or not. Hey, congratulations. Can't wait to see you on the next level. Cause these dudes work way too hard. These guys, these gals, anybody working for that college scholarship in athletics, they go through so much. Before I derail us too much, because I have the ability to do so, I want to talk about the defense for Miami
sure.
because there's a lot of intrigue there. You got some players on that defensive side of the ball that I'm really keyed in on, such as a Washington, right? I mean, you don't see too many guys with his stature growing on trees. He's someone I really want to talk about. What are you most excited for the Miami defense in 2022?
Well, man, I mean, a lot, right? I'm excited to see improvement, right? I'm excited for Kevin Steele to come in and put some scheme down on what we do defensively. But, really the crazy thing about our defense right now is that on our D line, we could probably play 12 guys right now, which is insane. They brought a lot of transfers in. Nigel E. Kelly has came in, and I mean, this is a recruit who's come in and he's hurting people in practice. Granted, he's going against the third team offensive line, right? But he's hurting people, and they say he's got great bend, great twitch. He's getting to the quarterback. I mean, they see superstar all over this kid. So it's a question not if, but when he's going to be a star for us. But Keem Mesidor, who came in from West Virginia, is an absolute monster. Darrell Jackson, who came in from Maryland, who's I mean, probably one of the largest human beings you'll ever see in your life has been, somebody who's really been catching the coach's attention. Jafari Harvey, is another guy who's been in the Miami program for 3 years now, and they really see him kind of turning the corner. He had probably remember him from the North Carolina game last year. He had a tip pass where he grabbed it and he ran it back in for a touchdown. But there's a lot on the defensive line this year that we think is going to be really really highly productive for us. So
And what a better area to be excited about than that defensive front, right? Especially when you look, we talked about the quarterback play in the ACC. There's still going to be phenomenal quarterback play in the ACC this year. You better be able to get after them. So having that ability is huge. Whenever you're looking at the defense, what's your biggest concern for 2022?
yeah, I mean, last year we watched a lot of missed tackles. So, I mean, like really a painful and alarming amount of missed tackles, right? So, just our ability to wrap up and tackle is really the concern, right? Because I think, we have the right things scheme wise going on right now. But once, what happens when we lace them up and, we go out there and we hit the field, right? Are we able to lock those tackles down and bring people to the ground in an effective manner? Because we weren't seeing it last year. So, really just our overall ability to tackle. I mean, I know we're going to get to the quarterback pretty well. I think, our safety room, I would argue, is one of, if not the best in the nation. We got a couple good guys in the cornerback position as well that can play. So, really just being able to get out there and tackle is going to be a lot. I mean, linebacker, I'm sure we're probably moving there next. We've got Caleb Johnson, who's a transfer in from UCLA, who's another guy who's word out of camp has been that he's played really really well and he's been the real deal. So that was a position that really struggled last year, and you know, you ask a lot of fans, it can be, the players are no good. You can ask a lot of fans, is it because they got bad coaching? We're not really going to know until they actually get out there and they play. I mean, Charlie Strong, obviously former head coach at Texas and UCF and defensive coordinator for UF when they won their national championship, is coaching linebackers now with Kevin Steele. So, you know, um, we want to see a lot of improvement there. I think Charlie Strong's the right guy for it. Again, you just got to lace him up though and see what happens out there.
Yeah, Charlie Strong is a guy. I mean, you talk about a resume. All the things you listed, plus a stop in Alabama where he was learning there as well. I mean, that when I saw that y'all had made that hire, there's my Southern Texas accent coming out. The y'all, right? I knew it'd come out once, but when I saw that Miami had made that hire, that was a real interesting moment for me, right? Because obviously, if you keep up with recruiting, if you keep up with college football, you know who Mario Cristobal is, right? Like, you know what he did at Alabama, you know what he did at Oregon, you just know what he does. He's a guy that is going to win you football games. He's going to have well coached teams. But when I watched him assemble this staff, right, and then you see a guy like Charlie Strong, you see a Kevin Steele, a Josh Gaddis coming from Michigan, it became really intriguing. Now, we're going to talk a bit about the linebackers, but you've piqued my interest with this safety room. Walk me through the safety room because I'm very excited.
Well, you got three guys that could really be alphas in that room, right? On your defense. James Williams, who's about 6'5", I mean, he's a dog too out there, right? I referenced that North Carolina game earlier, and there was a play where James was the only one standing up against pretty much the entire North Carolina offense. The rest of our D walked off the field, and he was ready to go with these guys as a true freshman. But he's got an incredible instinct for a safety, right? So really excited for him. Avonte Williams, is just another guy who's missed the first few games because of a suspension earlier in the season, but came on. I think his first game played, he literally climbed over a receiver's back, grabbed the ball and returned it for a touchdown, which was just an incredible highlight. If you get a chance, definitely take a look at that. But then there's another guy who's Cameron Kenshin, who's just another kid who came in as a true freshman last year, who I think has all the talent in the world, and is just going to be a star for us. So
Yeah, and I think that kind of highlights why even people on the outside like myself are so excited for what's to come because of some of the names in these rooms. Now, I did want to focus a little bit on the game this weekend because it's almost a double-edged sword, right? You hear college football fans and so many fans want to see teams open up against the number 5 team in the nation, right? These huge heavyweight matchups, but the double-edged sword of this is you actually get an opportunity to go out there against an opponent like my Tide going out against Utah State. If you have some things you need to get worked out, you and I both know you're not really effectively scrimmaging and getting a complete gauge of your scrimmage because your defense knows your offense. There's so much familiarity. You don't know what you look like until there's someone you don't see every day across from you. There is something to be said about playing a game that, as long as you play your brand of football, you feel confident about the result. So, what are you thinking is the biggest takeaway you can see from this game week 1 for Miami?
well, it's. I mean, I think you're obviously you're going up against Bethune Cookman, right? And I mean, look, love and respect the programs. I love actually when we play the HBCU games because for us we have probably the worst band in the in the country. I mean, just because surely because of size, right? I mean, musically they're great, but like you get the HBCU bands and they fill the entire stadium with just this great sound, right? So not really the knock on the band of the hour, right? But they're not big like they are in these guys. So that's great for the atmosphere that comes in. But when you talk about on the field, right? This gives us an opportunity to come in and really watch the kind of have the warm up and the practice. Watch how the plays are being called in. Make sure guys are on their toes and they know, hey, this rotation, you're in, you're out, right? It gives you an opportunity to really kind of right size things and put things in place and really try kids out at a certain position because the thing about playing against Bethune Cookman or like you look at FAMU and what they did going up into North Carolina last weekend, like I got all the respect in the world for those guys going in and playing as hard as they did, being 20 players out and really kind of putting it to North Carolina in a little bit of a way. But
Took
look,
it to
those
him.
guys, yeah, they're gonna come at us, and that's good, and we want that, right? But I mean, when you look at it, it just really comes down to I mean, the difference in the trenches on the sides is where like Miami's gonna run away with it, right? But they're fun games, right? And it's great to get out there and get to practice, and the biggest thing for both sides is look, stay healthy, no injuries, and you know just get out there and get some good on field experience and let us yell and scream for Mario as he brings the team back out of the huddle because we'll be there ready to roll.
Absolutely. And, I kind of will get some pushback sometimes when I'm talking about an Alabama against a Utah State or a Miami versus a Bethune Cookman, because I'll say there's something we can take away from this game. And I'll have people come to me and be like, they're supposed to kill that opponent. There's nothing you can learn from that game. And I always push back. There's lessons in every football game that's played. It's just all about finding them. They might be smaller lessons, but they're there. Now,
Sure.
before I let you go, I do have 2 more questions. They're pretty much analogous questions. For the entirety of the season of 2022, what are you most excited for the Hurricanes? And then opposite, what are you most concerned about for the Hurricanes?
So I'll start with the concerned, right? So
Okay.
I'm concerned for the expectations that we have from Oreo, right? So we got to understand there's going to be growing pains in this, right? Like every team right now feels they have a chance, right? And rightfully so, right? I mean, the way we look at it, we're always looking at it like, hey, if the ball bounces right for us, unless we're an Alabama fan like you, Ty, things can change, right? Because people don't have depth the way an Alabama, a Georgia, and an Ohio State do, right? So like I said, injuries can come in and they can derail your expectations. Plus, every year there's a trap game on the schedule, right? So for us, a game that I think everybody looks past. And they're like, oh, look, Virginia's picked, fifth in the ACC East. Well, you look at the fact that when we go there, Virginia very well could be undefeated. I think their hardest game they play is against Louisville, walking into it. I think that's sixth or seventh game of the year, right? So, you very well could walk in, to an environment where it's a night game in Charlottesville and that team believes in themselves, right? Their fans are rabid because the team is going crazy. Tony Elliott's got them going. What happens when you walk into that buzzsaw, right? You know, um, so, for me, I think we're gonna go 10-2, which I think is a bold prediction. I think we're going to win one that we shouldn't, right? Meaning, really either the at Texas A&M or at Clemson game, right? I think we pull one of those out, but I think we're going to slip somewhere along the way, and we're going to lose one that we should win, you know. But most excited for, I'm really just excited to see the team get back, play with energy, hustle, tenacity, everybody be in the right place because I don't really want to talk bad about Manny about Manny Diaz, but the fact that, I mean, we watched him for a long time and, look, our team showed up way too many times ill prepared, right? And not ready to go. And it's not a knock on the kids, right? Because it's the coach's jobs to make sure that you're there and, you show up on the field and you're ready to go. But, over the past couple of years, we really saw a lot of instances where, um, you know, that wasn't happening.
Yeah, and it's so interesting you end on that because when I was actually prepping for this earlier and I was kind of looking through some of my notes, I'd grab my notebook from last season because look, I might be a younger kid, but I'm a boomer at heart. I'm pen and paper, right? Like that's just that's always the way I've done it. But I was looking through that notebook, and whenever I was kind of charting out that Alabama Miami game, the one point I had for Miami under Manny Diaz is can Miami get out of their own way? Especially against an Alabama where they're not going to hand you anything. You're going to have to go and take it. We just don't see that out of Mario Cristobal, right? Like the mental lapses. That's just something we don't see. And so I completely agree. Like just seeing the team as a whole is going to be so exciting. Even for me, not being a Miami fan, just being such a rabid college football fan. I think the emergence of a Miami, a USC, like it's just so good for college football right now. And I think that kind of highlights what I led this show with is that I can't really think of an offseason that's provided more in terms of excitement before week one has gotten here than this offseason. No matter where you look, SEC, ACC, Pac 12, Big 12, there's something to be excited about. Big 10, even. Dirty Bird, I cannot thank you enough for the time you've given me this evening. It has been a ton of fun. Before I let you out of here, just like I did to begin this, where can the people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. At Twitter, on Twitter at Dirty Bird with three Y's. And then also, if you got Sirius XM, which I'm sure probably the majority of your listeners do, to just lock in channel 145 on your Sirius XM radio at Slam Radio. We're on every Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And you can check us out there. And also, we just started doing the show on YouTube too. So we're trying to build a little bit of a following on there. So if they want to look up the King Gang Show and smash that like or subscribe button, we would appreciate that as well. So.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll link your show in the description of this. That way they can just go click it there, easily get over there. Ryan, I'm gonna have to ask before I let you go. I'd love to do this again at some point
Sure.
during the season. I had a blast. It was great getting to learn more about Miami, and from the outside in, it's easy to see why there's hype, but getting kind of more of a close-up view really it makes me excited as well for what's to come this weekend. But thank you so much for the time being here. Everybody who tuned in, thank you so much for the time you've given us both this evening, and we'll see you next time. That's it. See you.
Thanks so much, Ty.